Here we are again on another day in Lent, and at the end of yesterday, Peter said something to me just as we finished filming, and I thought it'd be good for him to say it again, and we could perhaps just touch base with it for future reference. You said something about a particular book of the Bible, Peter.
Yeah, we were just talking about the next topic, and it's something to do with the book of Job. And I said that that's one of the only books that I've read the whole thing, because for me, reading the Bible isn't a big part of my life. But for Job, the reason why I read that one is because I like the philosophical questions that arise from it. And I think there's a lot to learn from trusting in God for why things happen. And there's the end of Job, satisfies my thing.
Thank you, Pete, because you have led me nicely into the next thing I want to mention. I said right at the end of yesterday's video that God cares for this planet, and that's partly why I feel that we need to look at it and turn from one way of doing things towards a different way of doing things. But I partly also wanted to say it because maybe as a future theme, and when we come back to what we are thinking about sometime after Easter, I'd love to sort of challenge Peter and challenge others that if he's read one book all the way through and it's Job, maybe it's good to read a few others all the way through for different perspectives on other things, because you're young and fit, and you could be grappling with all sorts in life if you went for other books as well. So Job's a great book, but I'm going to use it now, but I just thought we'd challenge you a little bit on that one. But let's stick to Job for a minute.
Yes.
Near the end of Job, you mentioned. Well, on this idea that God cares for his planet, this is Job chapter 38. There's only 40 chapters in Job. And in chapter 38, it just says these few lines. It says, have you entered the storehouses of the snow? This is God speaking to Job. Or seen the storehouses of the hail, which I reserve for times of trouble, for days of war and battle? What is the way to the place where the lightning is dispersed, or the place where the east winds are scattered over the earth, who cuts a channel for the torrents of rain, and a path for the thunderstorm, to water a land where no man lives, a desert with no one in it, to satisfy a desolate wasteland and make it sprout with grass? Does the rain have a father? Who fathers the drops of dew? From whose womb comes the ice? Who gives birth to the frost from the heavens, when the waters become hard as stone, when the surface of the deep is frozen? Can you bind the beautiful Pleiades? Can you loose the cords of Orion? Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons, or lead out the bear with its cubs? Do you know the laws of the heavens? Can you set up God's dominion over the earth? He's basically saying, well, this is all to do with me. I care about it an awful lot. And that's in the book of Job, Peter, that you reckon was a really helpful book near the end. And in amongst all that, Dave Buckless, in his book Planetwise, he talks a little bit about how God speaks through creation to Job. And he says, he puts it really nicely, he says, he takes him on a tour of his creation, studying mountain goats, wild donkeys, oxen, ostriches, horses and hawks, before finally introducing the monstrous behemoth, the hippopotamus, and the fearsome leviathan, the crocodile. Somehow Job hears God's voice through considering these creatures. So I just think God speaks through his creation. He cares for his creation. And I wonder whether, is that one of the helpful bits for you when you read that book, or was it more than that you kind of focused on?
Well, the short thing that I learned from it is that because we don't understand fully the physical world, and the latest science can't describe or explain everything, because we don't understand the physical, we can't be expected to understand the moral or the spiritual world, which is more complicated. So it's sort of trusting in God's omniscience, that or his all knowledge, all-knowing thing.
Yeah.
It's trusting that he knows why things are the way they are. So it just when you have philosophical questions like what the problem of evil is, thinking that God has a plan and things happen for a reason, that's the message I get from Job, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because he talks so much about all the things that are to do with the planet, if in any way it's not looking right, then maybe there is a reason why we're doing this stuff about turning away from one way of doing things and turning to another. But that comes back to our little complex discussion of whether it is actually that we're changing it much or not, and whether it matters. So there's an interesting point of, whether we think that humans are messing up this planet too much, or whether you think things like that have happened in the past. But let's leave it there, because we could go on too long, and I was conscious that yesterday's was quite a long video. So we'll stop there and pick it up again tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.